Old days in the tomb, and everybody said too late. The stone was cold and heavy, and the mourners filled the gate. Even those who loved him most had given up the fight. Said if only you had come before he passed into the night. But he stood before the tombstone with a grief that shook the ground. And he lifted up his eyes and made a most peculiar sound. Not a prayer of desperation, not a whisper in the dark, just a command that split the silence like a thunderclap. Lazarus, come forth. Lazarus, come forth. What the grave had claimed as finished wasn't finished by the Lord. Lazarus, come forth. Lazarus, come forth. He's still calling from the entrance of the tombs we've settled for. 4 days meant nothing to the one who holds the keys of death and life. And the thing you buried in the darkness can still walk into the light. Lazarus, come forth from everything that held you in the night. I rolled my stone in front of every dream that didn't live. Wrapped the gray clothes tight around the things I couldn't give. Said 4 days is 4 days, and the smell of death is real. But I keep hearing something calling from beyond the seal. Lazarus, come forth. Lazarus, come forth. What the grave had claimed as finished wasn't finished by the Lord. Lazarus, come forth. Lazarus, come forth. He's still calling from the entrance of the tombs we've settled for. 4 days meant nothing to the one who holds the keys of death and life. And a thing you buried in the darkness can still walk into the light. Lazarus, come forth from everything that held you in the night. Come out, come out. Whatever you have buried, he can still raise up. Come out, come out. The voice that split the darkness hasn't given up. Come out, come out, come out. The grave has no last word. He was 80 years of shepherd on the backside of the land. 40 years of fading from the dream he'd held in hand. Just a man with dusty sandals and a staff and some regret. When a bush caught fire and didn't burn and hadn't finished yet. He turned aside to see it, and the voice came rolling through. Said, take your sandals off, because this ground is holy too. I have heard my people crying, and I know their every chain. And I'm sending you back to Egypt in my name. The burning bush, the burning bush. God shows up in ordinary places when you least expect a push. The burning bush, the burning bush. He'll interrupt your 40 years of settling in the brush. What you thought was just another day on someone else's hill becomes the ground where heaven speaks and time itself stands still. The burning bush is calling out your name. I have spent my years on backside pastures with my broken staff in hand, watching over someone else's flock on someone else's land, thinking that the dream I carried was too old to resurrect, till a voice came from the ordinary that I didn't expect. The burning bush, the burning bush. God shows up in ordinary places when you least expect the push. The burning bush, the burning bush. He'll interrupt your 40 years of settling in the brush. What you thought was just another day on someone else's hill becomes the ground where heaven speaks and time itself stands still. The burning bush is calling out your name. Take them off, take them off. Every layer standing between you and this holy ground. Take them off, take them off. The burning bush is still on fire, and your name is being called out loud. The burning bush still burning. Hungry people on a hillside near the end of day. The disciples did the counting and said, send them all away. We have nothing here to offer but a boy with bread and fish and the math of our believing couldn't cover such a wish. But he took the little offer and he lifted up his eyes, gave it back with something in it that no calculation buys. Broke the bread and kept on breaking till the baskets overflowed, and the 5,000 went home full from what a small boy showed. The feeding of the five, the feeding of the five. God takes what little you surrender and makes something come alive. The feeding of the five, the feeding of the five. Don't despise the bread and fish that barely help you to survive. The miracle was never in the size of what was brought, but in the hands that took the little and forgot that it was not enough. The feeding of the five starts with what you have. I've stood before my mountains with a lunchbox and a prayer, counting up the deficit and calling it despair. But the one who fed the hillside with the boys forgotten me is the same one taking everything I offer and making it real. The feeding of the five, the feeding of the five. God takes what little you surrender and makes something come alive. The feeding of the five, the feeding of the five. Don't despise the bread and fish that barely help you to survive. The miracle was never in the size of what was brought, but in the hands that took the little and forgot that it was not enough. The feeding of the five starts with what you have. Bring it anyway. Ooh, bring it anyway. 5 loaves and 2 fish was all it took that day. Bring it anyway. Ooh, bring it anyway. Put your little in his hands and step back out the way. The feeding of the five starts with what you have. Ten of them went crying from a distance on the road, covered up in linen and in everything they owed. He told them, go and show yourself before the priest in town. And the healing met them somewhere on the way while walking down. Nine kept going forward to the temple and the gate, but one of them stopped walking when he felt his skin turn straight. Turned around and ran back through the dust of where he'd been. Fell down at the feet of Jesus, weeping from within. Oh, the 10th leper, the 10th leper. When the miracle arrives, don't let the gratitude grow cold. Oh, the 10th leper. blessing to forget the one who blessed. But the 10th leper showed that thankfulness is not the least but best. The 10th leper found more than healing at his feet. Oh, I have walked away from answered prayer without a backward glance, taken up the healing and forgotten where it came to pass. But the deeper miracle was awaiting at the feet of grace, and I only found it when I turned around and saw his face. The 10th leper, 10th leper. When the miracle arrives, don't let the gratitude grow cold. Oh, the 10th leper, 10 were healed, but only one came back to say, behold. Oh, it's easy in the blessing to forget the one who blessed. But the 10th leper showed that thankfulness is not the least but best. The 10th leper found then healing at his feet. Oh, turn around before you take the blessing and move on. Turn around. The greater miracle is found at where you came from. The 10th leper came back home. Came back home. Came back home. She came at noon to draw her water when the others weren't around. 5 husbands in her history, and a 6th that she had found. The kind of woman decent people cross the road to miss. But he sat down at Jacob's well and started talking like this. He said, give me a drink of water from the well you came to fill. And she said, how do you ask me this, considering our heels? But he said, if you knew who was asking, you'd be asking him instead. For a water that once tasted means you'll never thirst again. The woman at the well, the woman at the well. He knew everything about her, and he loved her just the same. The woman at the well, the woman at the well. He didn't wait for her to clean up before he spoke her name. She came to draw her water in the hiding of the noon, but she left the jar behind her and went running through the room. The woman at the well became a witness of his grace. I have come to draw my water in the heat of my own shame, at the hours when the crowd is thin and no one knows my name. But he's always at the well before I get there with my jar, knowing every husband, every wound and every scar. The woman at the well, the woman at the well. He knew everything about her and he loved her just the same. The woman at the well, he didn't wait for her to clean up before he spoke her name. She came to draw her water in the hiding of the noon, but she left the jar behind her and went running through the room. The woman at the well became a witness of his grace. Come and see, come and see a man who told me everything I ever tried to hide. Come and see, come and see. Leave your jar beside the well and let him fill you from inside. The woman at the well left her jar behind. He was short in stature, and he knew it in the crowd. Every head above him blocked the view he'd sought out loud. So he ran ahead and climbed a sycamore beside the road, just to catch a glimpse of Jesus passing with his load. But Jesus stopped beneath the branches where he perched in shame, looked straight up through all the leaves and called him by his name. Said, Zacchaeus, come on down, for I must stay with you today. And the crowd that stood there murmured as he scrambled down the way. The tax collector's tree, the tax collector's tree. When you're too small for the crowd, go find another way to see. The tax collector's tree, the tax collector's tree. Jesus always stops beneath the branch of your desperate plea. He didn't call the righteous from their comfortable front row. He looked up through the sycamore to find the ones below. The tax collector's tree is where salvation came to stay. I have climbed my share of sycamores, just trying to see past the crowd. Gone around the outside of the righteous ones when noise was loud, But he always stops below wherever I have climbed to see. And he calls me by my name and says, today I'll dine with thee. The tax collector's tree, the tax collector's tree, the tax collector's tree. When you're too small for the crowd, go find another way to see. The tax collector's tree, the tax collector's tree. Jesus always stops beneath the branch of your desperate plea. He didn't call the righteous from their comfortable front row. He looked up through the sycamore to find the ones below. The tax collector's tree is where salvation came to stay. Come down, he's standing at the bottom bottom calling out your name. Come down, come down. Salvation came to your house, and it will never be the same. The tax collector's tree. Ooh, ooh, ooh. Salvation stopped right there. Ooh, ooh, ooh. Three crosses on a hillside. In the middle one was grace. Two thieves on either side of him, with death upon their face. One of them kept mocking in the agony and spite, but the other turned his broken head and looked toward the right. He said, Lord, remember me when you come into your reign. I deserve the cross I'm hanging on, but you have no such claim. And the dying King of glory, in the middle of his pain, turned and gave the thieves beside him paradise by name. The thief on the right, the thief on the right. No baptism, no confession, no long history of right. The thief on the right, the thief on the right. Just a broken man who called on Jesus in the night. He had nothing left to offer but a prayer nailed to a cross, and a son of God said, today you're with me and you're not lost. The thief on the right shows grace needs nothing but your cry. I have spent my years believing I had too much wrong to bring, that the list was too extensive and the stain too deep to clean. But the thief had nothing righteous, and he made it by the night. And the same grace that received him is receiving me right. The thief on the right, the thief on the right. No baptism, no confession, no long history of right. The thief on the right, the thief on the right. Just a broken man who called on Jesus in the night. He had nothing left to offer but a prayer nailed to a cross, and the Son of God said, today you're with me and you're not lost. The thief on the right shows grace needs nothing but your cry. Remember me, remember me. That's all the dying thief had left to say. Oh, remember me, remember me. Oh, and paradise was promised before the end of days. The thief on the right made it home. The thief on the right. Beside the water, waiting for the stir. Every time the angel moved a pool, somebody got there first. He had no one left to carry him when healing broke the surface. And the years had turned his waiting into something without purpose. Then a stranger walked the colonnade, stopped beside his mat, said, "Do you want to be made well?" And left it right at that. Not a question about history or how we got this way, just the purest invitation that a broken man could wait. The Pool of Bethesda, the Pool of Bethesda. Sometimes Jesus walks right past the crowd to find the one who waits. The Pool of Bethesda, the Pool of Bethesda. He don't need the water moving and he don't need open gates. 38 years of missing every stirring of the pool, but the one who made the water came and changed the only rule. The Pool of Bethesda, where the waiting medicine. I have been beside my waters, with my mat beneath my frame, watching others get their breakthrough while I'm counting up my shame. 38 feels like forever when the healing passes by, but he's walking through the colonnade and stopping where I lie. The Pool of Bethesda, the Pool of Bethesda. Sometimes Jesus walks right past the crowd to find the one who waits. The Pool of Bethesda, the Pool of Bethesda. He don't need the water moving and he don't need open gates. 38 years of missing every stirring of the pool, but the one who made the water came and changed the only rule. The Pool of Bethesda, where the waiting medicine. Rise up, take your mat. Every year of waiting doesn't mean that he forgot. Rise up, take your mat. He walked the colonnade to find you in that spot. The Pool of Bethesda. Rise and walk. The Pool of Bethesda. Rise and walk. The Pool of Bethesda. The Pool of Bethesda. The Pool of Bethesda. Three men stood before the king, with music in the square. Every instrument commanded them to bow down then and there. But they straightened up their shoulders and they looked him in the eye. Said, "Our God can save us, but if not, we still won't bow and die." The furnace burned so 7 times the heat it had before, and the soldiers throwing them inside fell dead beside the door. But the king looked through the fire and he stuttered at the count. Said, "We threw in 3, but I see 4 walking in and out the fiery furnace, the fiery furnace. He don't always stop the fire, but he meets you in the the flame, the fiery furnace, the fiery furnace. You go in with your chains on and you come out not the same. The fourth man in the furnace had been there before the three, and the fire that was meant to end them set the bound men free. Yeah, the fiery furnace couldn't burn what God had claimed. I'd have stood before my furnaces with music all around, every pressure of the kingdom trying to make me bow down. But the God of Shadrach, Meshach walks the same fires I face, and the fourth man in my furnace is the one who took my place. The fiery furnace, the fiery furnace. He don't always stop the fire, but he meets you in the flame. The fiery furnace, the fiery furnace. You go in with your chains on and you come out not the same. The fourth man in the furnace had been there before the three, and the fire that was meant to end them set the bound men free. Oh, the fiery furnace couldn't burn what God had claimed. Don't bow down, don't bow down. Even when the furnace is turned up 7 times around, don't bow down, don't bow down. The fourth man's in a fire and he's already on the ground. The fiery furnace, he's already there. The walls were thick and tall, and every soldier knew the score. 7 days of walking circles seemed like losing, not like war. No sword was raised, no battle cry, just trumpets and a shout. And the strategy of heaven made no military sense throughout. But on the 7th day they circled 7 times and stopped to blow. And the walls that stood for centuries came crashing down below. What no army could have toppled with a lifetime of their siege fell before the sound of worship and the people on their knees. The walls of Jericho, the walls of Jericho. Some battles aren't won by fighting, but by walking in the cold. The walls of Jericho, the walls of Jericho. 7 days of faithful circling broke what armies couldn't hold. The victory was never in the strategy of men, but in the obedience of marching when the method made no sense. The walls of Jericho fell down on the 7th time around. I have walls before me that have laughed at everything I've tried. The walls of Jericho. Every conventional approach has left them standing high and wide. The walls of Jericho. But the God who dropped the ancient stones is giving me a sound, and the walls will fall like Jericho when worship hits the ground. The walls of Jericho. The walls of Jericho. The walls walls of Jericho. Some battles aren't won by fighting, but by walking in the cold. The walls of Jericho. The walls of Jericho. 7 days of faithful circling broke what armies couldn't hold. The victory was never in the strategy of men, but in the obedience of marching when the method made no sense. The walls of Jericho fell down on the 7th time around. Keep marching. Keep marching. The walls can hear the footsteps getting near. Keep marching. Keep marching. The 7th time around is almost here. The walls of Jericho. Walls of Jericho. Walls of Jericho. Still fall. Walls of Jericho. He was sitting by the roadside in the bang and the dust, when the crowd came rolling toward him with a rumbling and a fuss. They said, Jesus of Nazareth is passing through today, and the blind man threw his dignity and his beggar's cloak away. Son of David, have some mercy, was the only thing he had. Every voice around him told him that his hollering was bad, but he screamed it even louder till the procession stopped its feet, and the Son of God said, bring him here to me. Blind Bartimaeus, blind Bartimaeus, don't let the crowd around you silence what you need to say. Blind Bartimaeus, blind Bartimaeus, throw your beggar's cloak aside and cry out anyway. They told him to be quiet, but he hollered through the noise, and heaven stopped his walking at the sound of one man's voice. Blind Bartimaeus received his sight that day. I have sat beside my roadside in the dust of what I lack. Every voice around me saying, boy, you better just sit back. But the crowd that says be quiet is the crowd I'm shouting through. Son of David, have some mercy is the only prayer I knew. Blind Bartimaeus, blind Bartimaeus, don't let the crowd around you silence what you need to say. Blind Bartimaeus, blind Bartimaeus, throw your beggar's cloak aside and cry out anyway. They told him to be quiet, but he hollered through the noise, and heaven stopped his walking at the sound of one man's voice. Blind Bartimaeus received his sight that day. who stay on track. Growl, growl, throw your beggar's cloak and don't look back. Growl, growl, heaven hears the desperate ones who stay on track. Blind Bartimaeus, blind Bartimaeus received his sight. There are the seasons when I pray and pray, and nothing seems to shift or move or sway in the direction I had hoped to see. When nothing moves, I wonder where you'll be. But you are always present in the still, the quiet working underneath your will, that I could not perceive from where I stood. When nothing moves, you still are always good. I sat beside the silence for a while and waited through the unanswered mile of prayers that seemed to echo off the wall. But you were catching every one that fall into the space between my faith and doubt. You were collecting what I prayed about and holding it with purposes unseen. When nothing moves, you feel the in-between. When nothing moves, you are still moving still. When nothing moves, you're working out your will beneath the surface where I cannot see. When nothing moves, you're moving inside me. Every unanswered and every silent prayer. When nothing moves, you're answering somewhere in ways too deep for my eyes to perceive. When nothing moves is when I most believe. He's working all things from his throne above. When nothing moves, he's still a sign of you. Trusting in the silence is the deepest faith. When nothing moves, you are there. When nothing moves, they'll lift you in. I stepped inside from somewhere cold and gray and felt the warmth before I knew to say that I had needed something just like this. A presence wrapping around me like a bliss I hadn't earned and hadn't thought to seek. The warmth of you arriving soft and meek into the chill of everything I'd felt. The warmth of you is how my cold heart melts.
You don't arrive with fanfare or with fire, just a gentle warmth that rises higher than the coldest thing I've carried in my chest. The warmth of you is more than all the rest of everything I've tried to keep me warm through every bitter season and the storm of ordinary winters in my soul. The warmth of you is how you make me whole. The warmth of you is what I always need. The warmth of you is planting every seed of hope inside the coldest frozen ground. The warmth of you is the best thing I've found. Every chill beginning to release. The warmth of you is bringing me to peace. Nothing cold can stand before your love. The warmth of you is falling from above. Eyes of is warmer than the sun at noon. The word of you is coming very soon to every cold and shivering of soul. Covering me, the one of you setting free. I had been the one who always ran away, who found 100 reasons not to stay in the presence of a love I feared to trust. But you were patient through the run and fuss of every season I had turned my back. You never packed your bags or hit the track of somewhere better than the door I left. The God who waits was standing there bereft. You waited at the end of every road. You carried every part of every load I dropped along the way in my retreat, and held them ready for the day we'd meet again at the beginning of the end of all my running round each weary bend. The God who waits had never stopped his watch. God who waits had never lost his touch. The God who waits is standing at the door. The God who waits has always waited more than I deserve for all the times I fled. The God who waits with arms still open spread. Every prodigal who finds a way back home, the God who waits has never been alone. In his waiting, he was always there. The God who waits beyond all my compare. He saw him coming from a long ways off. The God who waits was never cold or gruff. He ran to meet him while his arms held out. The God who waits ran to me. The God who waits ran to me. The God who waits set me free.
I stripped away the extras one by one, the things I thought I needed to be done. Before I could deserve to come to you, and found that only rest was always true. The core of everything you ever read was not performance and was not the task of being more than what I simply am. Only rest was always in your plan.
You never built an altar out of stress. You never asked for anything but yes. A simple yes to laying myself down in the only rest that I have ever found. To be more real than all the striving is, more solid than the surface of my fears, more lasting than the things I try to build. Only rest was how you came to fill.
Only rest is what you're asking me. Only rest is how you set me free. Not the doing and not the achieving more. Only rest is what you're asking for. Every striving slowly losing ground. Only rest is where you can be found. Nothing earned and nothing to perform. Only rest inside your sheltering form.
Come to me and I will give you rest. Only rest is always God's case. Lay it down and let his peace begin.
I've been sitting in the in-between, the space of what has been and what I've seen.
if only time will move along. You are teaching me a different song of trusting in the waiting and the still, of finding you inside the unfulfilled spaces of a life not yet complete. In the waiting, you are what I need.
I used to treat the waiting like a waste, a corridor to rush through in my haste, to reach whatever waited at the end. But you were in the waiting round each bend, not absent and not silent in the space, but fully present, filling every place with something that the rushing always missed. In the waiting, I could not resist. In the waiting, you are working still. In the waiting, bending to your will. Not the destination, but the road between. In the waiting, you are always seen. Every unanswered prayer is held by you. In the waiting, you are making all things new. No season spent in waiting is in vain. In the waiting, you are in the rain. Wait up on the Lord and He will ride new. In the waiting, He is always true. They that wait will rise on wings of grace. In the waiting, you are here. In the waiting, in the waiting, in the waiting, in the waiting. There is a side of faith nobody shows, the quiet kind that only the faithful know. Not the mountain move or the miracle sign, but the steady trust in something divine
that holds you through the Tuesday afternoon, when nothing grand is coming anytime soon. The quiet side of faith is where I live. The quiet side of faith is what I give.
No crowd around, no applause to hear, just a quiet choosing day by day to stay near
to something I cannot always feel or see. The quiet side of faith is carrying me
through every ordinary stretch of days, when worship is the small and humble ways, and no audience around.
The quiet side of faith is holy ground.
Every small and faithful yes I give.
The quiet side of faith is how I live.